A member asks, do you miss the old YouTube? The short answer is yes. The long answer is yes. Yeah, I just think back on it so fondly. It was just such a different time. I was in a community of people making all kinds of content that was just thriving. It felt like we had just had things figured out. Let's think about it. You know, like back in the day, I wasn't even the biggest PokeTuber in the space. And it was just like, here's an unedited 25-minute Let's Play video of Pokemon X and Y. And everyone was just like, hell yeah, 50,000, 75,000 views. So much, so nice, so good, so easy peasy. But it wasn't just analytics. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you got a ton of views and that was it. Cause like that wasn't everything. Things also like felt different back then. And I mean, there's an element that can never come back. Things were just like so new. Everything was very fresh. Things were making big changes for the first time and gaming was crushing it. You had the come ups of the biggest, the lads, the Pewdies, the Jackseptics, the Markies. You know, I never reached, you know, that level of it. But I mean, I got to a certain level and I got to make a bunch of cool stuff and I got to meet and work with a lot of these people, the Grumps, all kinds of people, MatPat. I just got my foot in this door. But in addition to that, there was also like the PokeTuber community. Now I say all this with specific people in mind, but I feel like this applies to almost anybody who's been in the space as long as I have. The vibes were so different. Everyone was just so stoked to not only be succeeding, but also be succeeding around each other. Because I still see a lot of people from these communities, people that I know who are successful and they're still doing great. Some of their channels are like at the peaks of their entire careers. It's astronomically more than it was back then in the mid 20-teens, but like it feels a lot more like isolated. Like people are doing their thing, but it's so by themselves. There's this sense of community and excitement and like togetherness that I feel like has been lost. You make these classic long form old school Let's Plays, you go to a convention, you meet up with a ton of people, you're just like, oh my God, it's so nice to see you in person and hang out. This is great. And I didn't have time to see everybody I wanted to see. There would be like 30, 40 people that I would be struggling to make time for to like try and hang out with. One of my first PAXs, there was a posse of like 12 of us that were just always together like the whole time. And then like other people would like break off or rejoin and stuff. It was awesome. It's some of my favorite memories from this entire YouTube thing, from being part of any kind of like internet community. It's some of my favorite stuff. But then, you know, over time, things, you know, change. Of course, algorithm changes, people get stressed about their jobs. And of course, people change. Some of them, for the much worse, will say very upsetting reasons. But, you know, obviously there are people like that who is just like, okay, I guess this is see you later. But then there's other people you just like naturally break away from. And I think that's a normal part of life. I think that happens to everybody. You know, you lose touch with people like nothing happened. There's plenty of people in any like space I've been in who I haven't talked to in years, but as far as I know, if we were to talk, we'd be cool. But it's just people take different paths and it happens. But it feels like it happened so much. I have to appreciate and see the positive in these changes because things that needed to happen. Whether it's algorithms or whether it's people were doing questionable things that, you know, needed to see the light of day so that that can be addressed. It's stuff that like needed to happen, but God, man, I wish it didn't need to. There's people I miss. There's friends I wish I could hang out with. Friends of like all walks of life, whether they just got busy with their own life and they just had to fall out of touch. Even people that like shit went down and we had to stop talking. Like I miss them. It really sucks. And these are all things I associate with just how YouTube used to be. It was just so different, especially when you were in the space we were in. It was like the oyster was the world and we were just living in it. It was great, man. Some rad times, some good memories. But yeah, it feels like 2015, 2016, and most of 2017 were just this like golden era. And then the second half of 2017, like it just really fell apart really fast. And then obviously pandemics made it much more insane, much more chaotic. It's tough because it's things where over the years I've had to learn how to find the positive in things, especially when it's like when things are difficult, that often means it's hard work, and hard work often yields positive results. So I understand the outcome, the necessity, the positivity that needed to come to this. Even with like pandemic, not just on a YouTube sense, but like on a world sense, it felt like it popped a lot of bubbles that were being held together with freaking duct tape. So just a lot of stuff needed to happen. And now everything seems so much harder and complicated because it kind of seems like it's all just out there. It's just like, oh, this like golden era of like whether it's content creation or whatever, these years were so great because maybe you just weren't paying attention to the stuff that's not so great. And like you didn't know either. That's the big thing. You gotta understand when you look back on things and you're like, man, I wish I'd have done this different. I wish I could have seen this about this person. Or like, am I a bad judge of character? Did I make the wrong decision? That version of you was working with all the knowledge they could. You didn't know the algorithm was gonna change. You didn't know that the world was gonna shut down. You didn't know what these people were doing behind closed doors. So why should you accept responsibility for something you have zero clue about? And that's something I think is like really important because I think people who have been doing YouTube and content creation for a long time frequently fall down these holes of just like, man, remember the good old days? What happened? Why, like, what could I have done? Why aren't things the way they are? It's like, it just happens. It's out of your hands and like, shogunai. It is what it is. Worrying about something that you have zero power over can only affect you negatively. I think, yes, I miss how things used to be. I miss the old YouTube. I miss a lot of my old friends who I associate with that, but also I need to give myself some grace when I start thinking beyond, do I miss it? And like, I need it. It's okay to feel nostalgic, just don't let it take over. Because otherwise, that's a bad place to go to, man. You gotta think about it how you would think about it if it were someone else. You gotta approach it with the same mindset and approach and grace you would give if it were someone else. If your friends beating themselves up about like, man, I done fucked up, man. I wish I'd have done this different. I wish I weren't like this. I wish things weren't like this. What'd you tell them? Would you be like, yeah, come on, man. What'd you do? No, you'd be like, what could you do? There's nothing you could do. How are you supposed to know anything? How can you predict or prepare yourself for anything in a world that changes so dramatically on a daily fucking basis now? You can't. So just like accept that we all live in fucking chaos and it's out of our control and all we can do is sit tight, try our best and watch it happen. That's what you would say to someone else, most likely, I would think. If you're in this chat, you're probably at least like a bit of a chill guy. You know how to be a chill guy to other people. Be a chill guy to yourself like there are other people. Just a guy having day. Honestly, no meme involved. You're pretty no meme involved. We lost the plot. The vibes are wrong now. It got too real, got too serious. I fixed it. We're back. We're back.